I can't think of it. He's a magician. He's going to blow your mind. Please welcome to the stage, Keith Brown.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Paul. Big round of applause for Paul for hosting such a great event. Yes. You been having fun so far tonight? Excellent. So I'm in the hospital, and I'm awaiting the results of an X-ray. It is 1 a.m. It is now Tuesday. I am alone. I am scared, but I am level-headed. And I'm about to finally get an answer to the question that has been in the back of my mind for the last 5 days. You see, there's this trick that I've been doing. I've been doing it since I was 12 years old. It is my favorite trick. It is the trick that I've been doing longer than any other one. But it's also dangerous. And up until this point in my life, I never had a serious incident up until 5 days prior to going to the hospital. I was performing at the Ivy School of Business in my hometown of London, Ontario. I was giving a lecture to their MBA students on effective communication and presentation skills. And in the middle of this lecture, I was to perform this trick, and it was going fine, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. And I paused. I took a very big deep breath, and I felt the sweat going down my face, and I started going through this checklist that I have for this trick. I asked myself, do you feel pain? How bad does it hurt? Where does it hurt? Do you taste blood? Do you need to stop, or are you able to continue? And this moment for me, it felt like eternity. It felt like time slowed down. But it was just a moment where I said, no, 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 no. Yes, I am able to continue. And I finished the trick, and I finished this lecture. You see, that day, I hadn't very slept well, and I didn't get much sleep. I felt already kind of like garbage. So I didn't notice my situation changing. I didn't see it slowly get worse and worse. So I finished the show. I went home. I had dinner with my parents. I continued like normal. I went on to do this trick for the next 2 days. So I performed it for 3 consecutive days in a row. And when I left this lecture, I told myself, there is no way that it could be what you think it is. It 100% has to be the fact that you are sick, that you are run down, that you haven't been sleeping very well. Just give yourself a couple days. And by about day 2, I still feel terrible. I don't feel better, but I've been sleeping. I should feel rested, and it slowly starts to shift, going from there's no chance to maybe I messed this up. And by the 3rd day, the 4th day goes on, and on the 5th day, I am driving to a friend's house. We're gonna hang out, but I need to know, and I can't take it anymore. So in the middle of my car ride over, I change route and I drive to the hospital. I go to University Hospital on the campus of Western, and I drive in and I walk up to the triage nurse and I tell her there's this tightness in my chest, and every once in a while I will get this wave of pain that will stop me in my tracks. It's either because I'm sick or because there's a sewing needle. And she says, excuse me? So I repeat myself. It's either because I'm sick or because there's a sewing needle. And it takes her a moment, and she says, wait a minute, how do you think there's a sewing needle? How do you not know there's a sewing needle? And I proceed to tell her that I'm a magician, and I do this trick. I take a dozen sewing needles and I swallow them. And she goes, wait a second, you put more than one? Just come in right now. And I'm immediately admitted, and I'm taken to this bed, and a doctor asks me all of these questions, and they say, no, it does not sound like a sewing needle, it sounds like something else. But just to be sure, I'm gonna have my colleague examine you. And you know what, they ask me the same questions, I give them the same answers, and they say the exact same thing. It does not sound like a sewing needle, it sounds like something else, but just to be sure, we're gonna take an X-ray. And it's now 1 a.m. I'm wearing these scrubs. I'm walking back and forth in this room. My arms are crossed. And I'm finally going to get an answer to this question. And the doctor is looking at my x-rays. No, I don't see anything. You're fine. Ooh. And that's the moment that I knew this was real. So they immediately call in all of the doctors. It's the middle of the night, everyone has gone home, and I go from having one doctor to 3 separate teams of doctors, all working simultaneously to try to figure this out. And they bring in the head of endocrinology. His name is Dr. Paul Adams. He is going to be the man that saves my life. And he comes up to me and he says, Keith, look, we know roughly where it is, but we don't know if it's too far down to go from the top or too far up to go from the bottom. We might need to cut you open. So they keep consulting. They decide that they are going to do an endoscopy. But they prep me for surgery anyways, because after a few more x-rays and some CT scans, they discover that the point of the needle, it's close to my liver and the arteries. And if they hit the arteries on the way out, they're gonna have to cut me open anyway. So I look at this team of doctors and say, well, just don't hit my fucking liver. So they proceed with this endoscopy. Now, your stomach is right about here, and at the end is the pyloric sphincter. It's this soft muscle that controls the valve, what goes from your stomach into your small intestine. So it's your stomach, pyloric sphincter, and it'll hook down into the bowels. The sewing needle is just before the pyloric sphincter. If it was 1 inch further, they would have had to cut me open. And I'm talking a 6 to 8 inch cut, major invasive surgery. I would have been out for months and I would have missed over half of my summer tour that year. But they decide to do this endoscopy and they numb your gag reflex, they lay you down on your side, and then they shove a tube with a claw and a camera down your throat. And for the first few moments, I am fine. But then I start coughing. Feels like I'm going to cough out my lung, and for the first time in the few days that I've been at the hospital by myself, I am scared and I want my parents. But this doctor looks me right in the eye. He puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, Keith, relax, don't worry. I once took 26 fish hooks out of a prisoner's stomach once. And then I passed out. And I woke up to 2 scope photos beside my bed, as well as the sewing needle.
Oh my God!
And if you look in there, you will see a needle. It is half silver and half black. The silver part is what perforated my stomach. The black half is from the stomach acid. I was in the hospital for 2 days. They reintroduced my diet. They made sure that I wasn't septic, that my stomach wasn't leaking into my own body, and they discharged me. And I asked them if I could walk home because I lived 10 minutes away, and they said yes. So, believe it or not, on April Fools, I walked out of University Hospital after spending a total of $40, $20 for the T3s and $20 for the x-rays. And I walked through Western University and I've never felt more alive. Every single student and person on campus would turn and look at this guy who was in a hoodie and was ghost white, and they're like, what is about him? Why is he so? There was just something that would make all of these people look at me, because I knew how lucky I was to be alive. Now, this incident was kind of like a car wreck, and whenever you do get in a car accident, it's suggested that you get back in the car as soon as possible, because the longer that you wait, the harder it is to overcome that fear. And this is a trick that I'd been already doing for a decade. It had closed my show for forever. It was It made my living for me. It was one of my favorites. And I was scared to do it again. And I didn't perform this trick until 2 weeks later at an 11-year-old's birthday party. I didn't perform it for them. I performed it for me. Because I needed to know whether or not I could do it again. I needed to know whether or not I could get behind the wheel and drive it again. And that day, I made a whole room of 11-year-olds swear on their lives that they would never try this trick. And it went great. It went fine, and I breathed a sigh of relief that I knew that I could continue doing this trick. And ever since then, it hasn't gone wrong since. And I figured tonight is as good as any to roll the dice one more time. This is my hospital bracelet. This is a trick done with 2 pair of latex gloves, some scissors, sewing thread, a flashlight, a Ziploc bag, a business card, a marker, and a lemon wedge. A lemon wedge filled with 12 sharp sewing threads. I also need a brave person from the audience. And in the second row, what's your name? Katie.
It's Katie's birthday on Sunday.
Well, happy birthday, Katie. I promise you will not forget this. Important question. Are you allergic to latex?
No.
Good. I don't have insurance. These are for sanitary purposes, so that you don't get grossed out in the moment. And Katie, have you ever had to wear gloves like this before? Don't answer that. I want you to hold on to this lemon for me, and I want you to take out any sewing needle at all. Doesn't matter which. And I want you to make sure that it's real. Go ahead, like, don't hurt yourself, but it's sharp, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And try not to bend it or break it, but give a little tension. Make sure it is metal. It isn't candy or something that would dissolve in my mouth. That's a real sewing needle, yeah?
Real. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, place that right there.
Yeah.
Katie, thank you for laying that down flat. Ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment, yes, it is. By the way, this took me over 2 years to learn how to do. I had someone teach me how to do this. And as you can tell, accidents do happen. So please, do not try this at home. Do not try this at home. Try it at a friend's house. But Katie, can you take this flashlight and can you check, is there anything under my tongue?
Nope.
How about the roof of my mouth?
Nope.
Nothing? Nothing. Fantastic. Do me a favor, take out 2 sewing needles this time. A lot of you are probably still asking yourself, why? The real answer, this is how I make a living. Again, can you check anything under the tongue?
No.
Roof of the mouth?
No.
Nothing. Nothing. Do me a favor. Take out 3. You know what? It's confabulation. And it's cringeworthy. Do you want to go big? Or do you want to go bigger? Take them all out.
That's what I was
Ladies and gentlemen, 9 sharp sewing needles. Now, Katie, in a moment, I'm going to offer you an opportunity to push your comfort zone. No, you do not have to swallow these, don't worry. However, in a moment, and it's only if you're willing, I'm going to ask you to pinch the sharp tips of these sewing needles. Then I'm going to lean back my head. I'm going to stick out my tongue, and I want you to gently, which is the most important word in that whole sentence, I want you to lay those gently flat on my tongue. No stab, stab, flat. And if you do that, everyone here is going to give you a thunderous round of applause for being so great. Does that sound good to you?
Katie, what's wrong with you?
So, ladies and gentlemen, 9 sub seniors. One last time, can you check? Is there anything under the tongue?
No.
Roof of the mouth?
No.
How about the sides?
Nothing there.
Nothing. Nothing. Amazing. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not all that I brought. Can you please take these scissors? I'm not going to swallow those, relax. Could you open those up for me? And I want you to give it a cut right about there. I'll take those back, thank you.
Here we go. Weird.
You're just noticing that?
So uncomfortable.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this next part, it does require a lot of concentration. And it may seem like interpretive dance, but please, stay.
Here it comes. Oh. No. Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Dental like.
Oh god.
Oh no.
helping out. I do have two things for you. Out of curiosity, how do I spell your name?
It's like K-A-T-I.
Now, Katie. After the show, on my way out, if I see this in the trash, I promise you I will not be offended. However, this is for you. So, Katie, more importantly, this is for you. It's a marker. Because, Katie, after the show, all these people, they're going to want your autograph. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see the x-rays or the scope photos, come find me afterwards. But ladies and gentlemen, I really believe that life is like an arrow. Sometimes an arrow needs to be pulled backwards in order to be launched forwards. So the next time you feel like life is dragging you back, just know that it might be because it's going to launch you forward into something extraordinary. Because there's one part of the story I didn't tell you. I really believe this is the best, worst thing to ever happen to me. That doctor, he hired me for his Christmas party. While I was there, I met a lady, and she writes, and she says, I really love your story. I want to put it in a business magazine. So I got a 2-page spread in a business magazine, and companies saw this, and they reached out to me instead of the other way around, and they were above my pay grade at the time, and they asked if I would perform at their corporate functions. So of course I said yes. And then a lady from my hometown, she approached me, and she said, I'm putting out a book, and I want to include chapters from different authors, and I want you to share your story. So I became a bestseller on Amazon. Not only that, but I got offered to speak at my first ever magic convention to share this story in front of my peers, my friends, and my mentors 2 years to the day that I was released from the hospital. So just remember, the next time that life is dragging you back, just know it's going to launch you forward into something extraordinary. My name's Keith Brown. Thank you.
Okay, so listen. Keith and I hung out on Sunday to go over his story. And then I was like, you know what? You could totally perform that trick on stage. We don't normally allow like props and gimmicks and things. But this one I will definitely allow. I don't know how I feel right now. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, this is our show. A big thank you to everyone here at Burdock, Matt, Abigail, Andrew at the bar. Did I get that right? Yeah. Sweet. A big thank you to my co-producers, Andrea Lou, Victoria LeBerge, and Emily Poulin. A big thank you to all of our storytellers, and an even bigger thank you to all of you for coming out. We'll see you in November.